To live well, a person must know where their strength begins. For the Stoics, that strength was never found in applause, approval, or the shifting warmth of admiration. Those things come and go. What endures is the relationship you hold with yourself. Loving yourself in this sense is not about indulgence or ego. It is about respect. It is about treating your mind and your actions as something worth guarding. Without this respect, no discipline can last, no clarity can hold, and no virtue can truly take root. To love yourself is to walk with principle, to remain aware of your inner state, and to carry discipline as a quiet companion. It is the ground from which strength grows. This is the path we will walk together. The first step is simple. Define yourself before the world does. If you leave that space empty, others will fill it for you. Society will hand you roles built on comparison, on popularity, on appearance. These are fragile measures. They ignore your values. They overlook your purpose. And when you lack direction, their influence grows stronger. The Stoics warned against this. They taught that clarity begins with deciding who you are, and then living in harmony with that decision. Epictetus put it plainly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This is not theory. It is practice. It begins with asking yourself direct questions. What am I living for? What qualities do I truly admire? What kind of person am I willing to become? The answers are not decorations. They are foundations. If you claim to value honesty, then dishonesty has no place in your life. If you claim to value discipline, then inconsistency cannot be excused. Defining yourself is not about public statements. It is about the quiet repetition of choices that align with your principles. Over time, this steadiness removes the need for confirmation. Praise or criticism may come, but they no longer unsettle you. You are not adjusting yourself to win approval. You are not chasing identity. You are living it. And this requires practice. Every decision is a chance to reinforce who you are becoming. A person who values courage speaks when silence is easier. A person who values discipline follows through even when weary. Each small act is a vote for the person you have chosen to be. This is how identity is written, not in words, but in action. Without a clear foundation, it is easy to drift. You may find yourself carrying beliefs that are not truly yours, imitating the values of those around you simply because they are loud or familiar. You may live by habits that were never examined. The Stoics guarded against this by turning inward each day. They reviewed their actions. They compared their behavior to their principles. They did not wait for others to point out their errors. They corrected themselves. This comma too is a form of love. To love yourself is to take responsibility for your own character. It means you refuse to let it be shaped by accident or neglect. You decide the kind of life you are building, and you choose to live in alignment with that vision. You respect yourself enough to act with purpose, even when no one is watching. You protect your sense of self by returning day after day to the standards you have chosen. This is where strength begins. When you act from principle, life no longer feels like a series of reactions to circumstance. You move with intention. You think before you speak. You pause before you act. You reflect before you sleep. Over time, these patterns build trust in yourself. You no longer wonder who you are. You begin to live as the person you have chosen to be. Chapter 2. Withdraw from self-destructive thought. Every action begins in thought. Thoughts shape decisions. Decisions form habits. Habits build a life. If your inner dialogue is filled with judgment, doubt, or shame, those thoughts begin to guide your choices. They create hesitation, self-sabotage, or retreat. Repeated often enough, they settle into habits that quietly weaken your direction and stability. The Stoics knew that attention to thought is the first line of defense. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This is not poetry, it is visible truth. A person who dwells on past failures soon expects to fail again. They begin to anticipate rejection, to question their worth in silence. Even their successes feel muted by conflict within. Their mind colors their life. But when someone holds their thoughts steady, when they cultivate clarity and composure, their actions follow. They move with control instead of reaction. Self-directed insults are not harmless. They are instructions. Tell yourself you are weak, and strength begins to feel out of reach. Replay your mistakes endlessly, and the past starts to weigh more than the present. Loving yourself begins here. By noticing the messages you send yourself and withdrawing from those that harm you. You do not argue with self-contempt. You do not justify it. You replace it with choices that reflect responsibility and care. This is not denial. It is correction. Begin simply by observing your inner dialogue. Watch it without defending, without excusing. Notice the tone of your thoughts and recognize the power they carry. Begin by noticing. Notice the tone of your thoughts. Notice the words you use with yourself. When self-criticism appears, mark it, but do not wrestle with it. Do not argue. Simply redirect your attention toward action. Choose something immediate and deliberate. Tidy your space. Organize a task. Take a step forward in the work at hand. This shift creates distance, and in that distance, the harmful thought begins to lose its hold. The Stoics reminded us that control begins in the mind. What you allow to remain there will eventually shape your behavior. A disciplined mind learns to choose which thoughts are allowed to stay. If a thought undermines your direction, remove it with the same consistency you would remove poisons from food. This is not avoidance. You still reflect on mistakes. You still examine your choices with honesty, but you do so without hostility toward yourself. The mind is not corrected by punishment. It is trained through steady, intentional practice. A trained mind becomes familiar with its own patterns. It recognizes them before they grow into harmful behavior. This training is not only about silencing thoughts, but about shaping the entire environment of the mind. Daily review, careful attention, and deliberate input. Think of the mind as a tool. You monitor how it works, where it falters, what strengthens it, and what wears it down. When harmful tendencies surface, you do not ignore them. You adjust your inputs, your habits, and your focus. Steering thought in a healthier direction takes effort, but it is effort worth making. Much of the harm in thinking arises quietly, through doubt, sarcasm, or the silent rehearsal of failure. Left unchecked, these grow strong. The first step is awareness. The second is interruption. The third is redirection. Replace what is destructive with what is useful. Reflection, writing, breathing, or the simplicity of a constructive task. When judgment softens into observation, change becomes possible. Instead of calling yourself lazy, you review what was done. Instead of calling yourself weak, you notice where preparation fell short. Blame turns into data. The Stoics encouraged this, observing the mind as a physician observes a patient, without drama, with interest, and with the intention to heal. Each time you interrupt a harmful thought and return to purposeful action, you leave behind a mark. That mark becomes a pattern, and the pattern teaches your mind which path to follow. Over time, the habit of steady response replaces the impulse of self-attack. This practice does not erase discomfort, but it makes your response clear, predictable, and useful. Discipline does not appear all at once. It is formed by small corrections, repeated until they become second nature. Loving yourself means treating the condition of your mind as something entrusted to your care. No one else can do this work for you. Others may support or encourage you, but the responsibility is yours. Only you decide what thoughts remain and which ones must be released. When the inner world is left untended, it turns heavy. Judgment becomes clouded. Actions lose direction. Progress slows. The Stoics saw self-inflicted harm as waste because cruelty toward the self weakens capacity. It creates disorder where steadiness is needed. Your thoughts are not enemies to be fought. They are signals to be read. By guarding your mental environment from patterns that corrode your character, you create the conditions for measured behavior, steady judgment, and principled choices. Thought shapes action. If the mind is ordered, the life that follows carries that same order. If the mind is scattered or hostile, the actions reflect instability. Clarity begins with what you allow to circulate in your head. The mind must become a prepared space. Preparation includes daily reflection, honest review of speech and action, and awareness of mood. It also means protecting that space from influences that scatter your attention or feed resentment. When you remove judgment, resentment, and self-sabotage, you clear the ground for strategy, consistency, and calm problem-solving. From that ground, habits take root. Habits built on clarity are easier to sustain. They reduce hesitation, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. With fewer distractions, stability grows, and stability gives you strength in difficulty. You do not depend on emotion alone. You lean on what has been practiced and tested. This is why withdrawing from harmful thought is not a matter of comfort. It is an act of reclaiming your direction. A disciplined mind allows clear thinking, wise choosing, and endurance with composure. These outcomes do not arrive by chance. They are earned through practice, through the decision made again and again to protect the mind and act from strength. Chapter 3. Set boundaries that reflect your standards. Those who respect themselves also set limits. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about clarifying direction. A clear boundary is a reflection of inner order. It shows that your time, your energy, and your presence are guided by purpose. Without boundaries, you are pulled in every direction. Your priorities become vulnerable to the loudest demand or the nearest distraction. When your actions are pulled by external demands, your energy no longer serves your principles. It is scattered across the expectations of others, regardless of whether those expectations align with your values. Boundaries, then, are not emotional reactions. They are decisions rooted in clarity. A person who knows what they are building protects that process from unnecessary interference. Seneca once wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Direction matters. Without it, you say yes to tasks and distractions that offer no true return. You find yourself entangled in arguments, obligations, and noise that consume your time, but do not strengthen your purpose." Loving yourself includes protecting the limited space in which you act with clarity. To set boundaries, you must first know your values. Without them, limits are inconsistent and reactive. With them, Decisions gain structure. Values show you what matters, what strengthens you, and what deserves your presence. This removes uncertainty. You no longer evaluate every request from the beginning. You already know what aligns and what does not. Begin by looking at how you spend your time, energy, and attention. Notice what pulls you away from important work. Notice who drains your focus. Notice which patterns create frustration or delay. These are the places where limits must be drawn. Remove what weakens your concentration. Refuse what brings clutter to the mind. Decline what feeds confusion. Your energy is a finite resource. If it is divided by every demand, your direction weakens. The process of setting boundaries is rarely comfortable. Others may question your choices. Some may see your refusal as resistance. And if you are used to saying yes without thought, change will feel awkward at first. But discomfort is not a sign of error. It is a sign that you are stepping away from old habits. The unease is temporary. The cost of ignoring boundaries lasts far longer. When interference is allowed to repeat, priorities are slowly replaced by compromise. Boundaries are not permanent shields. They are practices. You strengthen them each time you act on them. Every boundary reinforced is a reminder of your direction. You are choosing structure over reaction, purpose over guilt, clarity over the fear of judgment. Each decision becomes a small test. Are you living by your values or abandoning them under pressure? With practice, you stop seeking approval for your limits. You no longer feel obliged to defend them to those who do not share your priorities. This saves time. It reduces conflict. It keeps you steady. Boundaries become a quiet signal that your life is governed by your principle. You begin to say no with ease because your yes has weight. You stop taking on roles that pull you away from your direction. You no longer measure your worth by how much you surrender, but by how well you protect what truly matters. Time spent in misaligned conversations or activities is not neutral. It is time taken from the work that gives your life meaning. Protecting your time is an act of discipline. Protecting your energy is an act of strategy. Protecting your peace is an act of clarity. You are not required to answer every demand. You are not responsible for the reactions of others. Your responsibility is to remain on course. Each time you act on your priorities, the path ahead becomes clearer. This inner structure grows into confidence. It is easier to trust yourself when your choices follow a stable framework. Each time you honor that framework, your identity becomes firmer. You do not doubt your limits, you confirm them. Trust in yourself is built through consistency. Slowly, the scattered feeling fades. You speak without confusion. You act with calm precision. You learn to weigh the cost of every yes against the life you are building. You live by standards, not by pressure. This quiet alignment builds emotional steadiness. You become less reactive, less entangled in noise. Boundaries do not cut you off from others. They preserve your capacity to meet them from a centered place. With them, you can enter complex situations without losing yourself. Loving yourself includes protecting your time, your energy, and your peace from needless harm. By guarding the space where your values are lived, you preserve the life that depends on them. This is the role of boundaries. Preservation through structure. Chapter 4. Accept your past without dragging it. Every life carries a history. Regret, mistakes, weakness, failure. None of us are exempt. These are records of choices made in confusion, under pressure, or in inexperience. To love yourself is not to erase them, but to see them clearly, without distortion and without letting them define your present path. The past cannot be undone. But it can be understood. Its value is instruction, nothing more. The Stoics taught that the past itself is indifferent. It holds no moral weight. It is outside of your control and cannot be relived. What remains within your control is how you interpret it, what you learn from it, and how you choose to move forward. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The past belongs to what has already happened. Your power lies in what happens next." The weight of the past grows heavier when you carry it without examination. If you resist it, deny it, or attempt to bury it, its influence deepens. The mind often replays old events in search of resolution. But what it finds is only repetition. Regret hardens into shame. Reflection stalls into paralysis. Nothing new is discovered, only the same cycle, draining energy and clouding direction. Memory was never meant to punish. Its purpose is to guide the present with honest understanding. To care for yourself is to take value from your past without being bound by it. That means recognizing where you were unprepared, where judgment failed, or where emotion overpowered reason. These are not grounds for shame. They are starting points for rebuilding, for strengthening the choices, standards, and behaviors that come next. Moving forward with awareness is not the same as forgetting. You do not erase the facts. You absorb them into a fuller picture of your growth. The past becomes a reference point, not an identity. It informs your judgment without dictating your future. Lessons carried without distortion become useful. They sharpen your standards, clarify your goals, and keep you from repeating the avoidable. Your past becomes background knowledge rather than a constant burden. It shaped your understanding, but it does not decide your next step. It reminds you of what created harm, what brought clarity, and what caused confusion. Used in this way, memory serves evaluation, not condemnation. When you stop turning the past against yourself, your mind becomes quieter. The noise fades. Self-doubt loosens its grip. Attention can return to what is in front of you now. You stop rehearsing pain and begin investing in correction. Regret gives way to structure. Instead of asking what should have happened, you ask, what must I do now? This shift of focus frees energy. You stop pouring it into scenes you cannot alter and begin applying it to choices you can dot. This is the soil where discipline grows. Concentration deepens. The principle of self-direction takes root. Growth requires letting go of repetitive judgment. A mind locked in yesterday cannot move into tomorrow. Attention is limited. If it stays caught in unresolved stories, it has little capacity left for present clarity or future refinement. When focus turns toward action, energy gains purpose. Time becomes more ordered. Guilt no longer needs soothing. Strategy takes its place. Peace is not found by revising the past in imagination. It is created by shaping the present with understanding. Correction is the true preservation of the lesson. Action is the evidence of what you have learned. The past has done its work when it informs your steps forward. You remain responsible for the direction you are taking. The past does not cancel that responsibility, nor does it cancel your ability to adjust your course. Disorder behind you does not prevent order ahead, unless you decide to treat it as a reason to stand still. When you believe your history defines your limits, you begin to see every present opportunity as out of reach. Instead, remember that you are still in motion. Each decision you make now becomes part of the framework for your future. Think of yourself as a builder. The past is not your blueprint. It is only a record. The structure takes shape from what you choose to do today. Do not remain tangled in single memories. Step back and see the larger pattern of your behavior. The clearer your actions become in this moment, the more distance you create from mistakes already made. Let your discipline today replace the need to regret yesterday. Let your progress be visible in how you live, not in how much you revisit what has already happened. The Stoics understood this well. They did not rewrite the past with emotion or carry it with endless commentary. They observed, they learned, and they returned their focus to what remained within reach, the present. Their approach was not about closure. It was about clarity. What is done cannot be undone. What remains can still be shaped. The past belongs behind you. Its value rests only in how you use it, not to erase, not to rehearse, but to observe, to extract, and to move forward. Your attention belongs to what you are building now. Your habits, your relationships, your decisions. These are the areas where meaning is created. The more you act with consistency in the present, the less space the past occupies in your thoughts. Freedom grows when identity is no longer chained to old mistakes, but constructed from today's standards. You stop trying to redeem what is gone and start creating what reflects understanding. This shift lightens the emotional load. It frees mental energy. It supports wiser choices and prepares you for challenges with steadiness instead of hesitation. You honor what came before by acting with more clarity. Now, strength is built in this way, by applying lessons, not regrets. You move forward with awareness, showing through action what has been learned. Chapter 5. Cultivate solitude as a source of strength. Solitude reveals how much of your energy has been tied to distraction. It clears away the background noise and shows you what you have been carrying without noticing. Many of the inputs you surround yourself with, constant conversation, endless activity, continuous stimulation, are ways of avoiding harder thoughts. When you step back from these distractions, you begin to hear what lies beneath them. The thoughts that surface in solitude are not always comfortable. They may include doubt, fear, or decisions you have delayed, but solitude brings them into awareness. To love yourself is to learn how to face this space without distress. It is not about preferring to be alone. It is about building the skill of being steady in your own company. When you sit quietly, you notice how often discomfort pushes you into unnecessary activity. You see how easily you reach for conversation, entertainment, or constant motion just to avoid your own thoughts. Solitude removes these layers. What remains is the truth of your thinking and the quality of your focus. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He did not mean this as poetry, but as a practical reminder. Your mind can be trained into a refuge, a place for calm, review, and direction. Solitude is not escape. It is preparation. You are not leaving the world behind. You are sharpening your ability to re-enter it with purpose. The pause strengthens the return. Time alone allows you to reconnect with your principles, to measure your behavior against your values, and to refine your reasoning without distraction. It creates the conditions for honest evaluation, free from comparison or outside influence. This clarity cannot be rushed. It must be practiced through regular, deliberate moments of stillness. In solitude, you learn to rely less on approval and more on alignment. You confirm your path by your standards, not by the applause of others. Over time, your inner structure becomes stronger, and silence feels less like emptiness and more like a place of construction. Build habits in solitude that reinforce discipline. Begin your mornings with quiet planning. End your evenings with review. Use silence to create clear transitions between tasks, so your focus is not blurred by overlap. Set aside time where no response is expected of you. Time for reading, reflection, and realignment. Solitude should be a rhythm, not a retreat taken only when exhaustion forces it. Silence has a way of revealing what is unnecessary. It shows you which habits dilute your focus, where you overcommit, and when you over-explain. It reminds you that much of life can be simplified. You do not need to answer every invitation. You do not need to justify every choice. In these quiet spaces, you return to what matters. You protect your energy, and in doing so, your self-respect deepens. You are no longer performing. You're simply being steady, clear, and present. You no longer shift your behavior to match the expectations of others. Instead, you act according to a clear internal design. Each choice arises from consideration, not impulse or the hope of approval. The quiet allows you to observe your mind without distraction. You notice what influences your mood, what shapes your priorities, and where your attention drifts when it is left unguarded. You begin to trust this process because it is built through repeated attention, not reaction. Judgment becomes reliable when it has been tested in silence. You see patterns in thought that require adjustment. You recognize habits that do not serve your structure. This self-observation is the foundation of growth. You refine how you approach challenges. You identify unnecessary complexity. You distinguish what truly matters from what drains energy without purpose. This is the life the Stoics pursued, guided by principle, maintained through discipline, and strengthened by solitude. A life where each thought has its place, each decision has reason, and each action moves with direction. The Stoic integrates inner and outer life, bringing clarity from within into every external choice. This integrity begins in solitude. Without quiet observation, clarity fades and distraction grows. You do not need an audience to confirm your value. External approval is not required to justify your priorities. What matters is the personal standard you return to each day. That standard grows stronger when reinforced in silence. In these undisturbed moments, thoughts become organized, decisions clearer, and next steps more evident. In solitude, your thinking connects directly to your actions. Your priorities are reviewed, not guessed. Your path is chosen, not copied. The mind becomes a clean workspace rather than a reactive environment. Decisions are made with intention and resilience. Plans are formed with control, and adjustments follow from clear reasoning. Loving yourself means protecting this internal space. It requires attention, care, and maintenance. Neglect it, and distraction becomes default. Act without it, and reaction replaces preparation. Guard it, and your movements gain weight. You act with stability rather than scattered urgency. Thoughts are considered before speech. Direction is reviewed before action. Solitude is not an escape from responsibility. It is where responsibility is defined. Each day spent in solitude reinforces your identity. It confirms the structure you have chosen and strengthens your ability to preserve it. You engage with the world from a grounded position, unshaken by opinion or pressure. Guidance from others is unnecessary because your own direction is clear. This internal preparation is the root of calm confidence. When your identity is supported by solitude, your actions reflect discipline. Relationships become clearer. Commitments become deliberate. The mind becomes prepared. That is the strength solitude produces, an identity you can carry into any situation without confusion. Chapter 6. Stop trying to earn your worth. Begin living it. The Stoics understood that true value rests in character, not in outcomes. You are not defined by achievements, praise, or external validation. Your worth is shown through your actions, decisions, and commitment to principle. To live well is to act with clarity, not to chase approval. When you constantly try to prove yourself, you live as a performer. Your focus shifts from what is right to what is rewarded. This weakens the foundation within. When you accept that worth is inherent in disciplined action, your relationship with yourself begins to transform. You no longer measure your value by results or by the reactions of others. You stop treating public opinion as a scoreboard. Instead, you evaluate yourself by your consistency with your principles. Progress is no longer measured by recognition, but by the quality of your choices, the steadiness of your follow-through, and your ability to remain composed under pressure. You stop tying your identity to praise or criticism. Neither flattery nor censure will dictate your sense of self. You observe your intent, review your effort, and measure whether your actions align with your beliefs. This clarity strengthens consistency and reduces emotional volatility. Your view of yourself becomes grounded in action rather than appearance. You develop respect for your own alignment with your values, even in private moments. You act for integrity, not for recognition. Living your worth means showing up fully, whether anyone is watching or not. Each day begins with purpose. You carry out tasks with care. You treat your time as a finite resource. You speak truthfully even under pressure. You make deliberate choices even when others hesitate. These actions are not performed for reward. They are guided by principle. The reward comes naturally. The quiet self-respect of knowing you live according to your standards. When you try to earn worth externally, effort becomes distorted. You say yes when you want to say no. You take on tasks that dilute your focus. You tolerate situations that diminish clarity. The desire for approval leads to overextension, and you lose sight of what truly matters. Seeking value through constant proof drains energy and clouds judgment. You spend more time adapting to others than refining your own path. When you act from a place of enough, your choices become precise. You are less swayed by comparison. Decisions are deliberate, not reactive. You take on only what aligns with your purpose. You no longer stretch yourself simply to gain acceptance. Every responsibility is measured against the question, does this serve the person I am becoming? If it does not, you step away. The Stoics remind us to focus on the internal. Act with reason, discipline, and justice. The outcome is not yours to control. Praise may follow, or it may not. The quality of your effort remains unchanged. Your responsibility is to your behavior, not to others' interpretations. Approval belongs to them. Action belongs to you. Living your worth means staying centered on what you can influence. You govern your speech, your focus, and your direction. Dependence on external validation diminishes. The pressure to perform is replaced with the pressure to remain consistent, a pressure that strengthens character. You do not prove your value to others. You prove your focus, your stability, and your discipline. That is what earns trust, respect, and influence. When you live from this posture, recognition becomes unnecessary. You live the principle itself. Chapter 7. Stop apologizing for your standards. Standards provide clarity. They guide your choices, shape your speech, and define what you allow in your life. When your standards are clear, life becomes structured. Confusion diminishes. Time is not wasted. Exposure to distractions or influences that do not support your goals is reduced. When you apologize for your standards, you weaken yourself. You open the door to compromise when strength is required. The Stoics emphasized commitment to virtue. Discipline, justice, and clarity are not built through constant negotiation. They are built through decisive action, not apologizing for your boundaries, your discipline, or your refusal to engage in distraction signals. Doubt to yourself more than anyone else. Living with principle requires firmness. You are not obligated to justify every choice. Your peace is not owed to the discomfort of others. Once your standards are aligned with your values and established through reflection, they are to be protected and expressed consistently, not apologized for. Each time you uphold your standards, internal conflict lessens. You stop second-guessing decisions you have already clarified. You act with less hesitation. You move through the day with direction, not delay. To stop apologizing is not to become rigid, it is to become precise. You know what nourishes your growth and what diminishes it. Your energy is preserved for what truly matters. Your life is guided by principle rather than external expectation. You apply knowledge through action. The result is a life shaped by thought, commitment, and strength. Standards are not burdens. They are tools. They make intentional living possible. Chapter 8. Be consistent when no one is watching. The Stoic understood that true character is revealed in private. The actions you take when no one observes you show the depth of your discipline and integrity. When standards only hold under supervision, they are conditional. When they remain steady in solitude, they are stable. Self-respect grows through this consistency. Each quiet act of discipline reinforces your identity. You become someone who does what is right simply because it is right, not because it is noticed. Private consistency is a test of sincerity. It removes external influence, approval, praise, recognition. The only measure becomes your principle. Do you train your mind when you are tired? Do you honor your commitments when no one would know if you didn't? Do you maintain order in your environment without prompting? These small, unseen acts are the markers of inner strength. Inconsistent behavior breeds internal conflict. When your actions depend on being seen, you lose self-trust. You act for response rather than reason. Anxiety and confusion arise. You drift from task to task, constantly seeking confirmation. Consistency reverses this drift. It builds rhythm, stability, and focus on progress rather than performance. To live by principle, effort must be steady. Intensity is not required. Reliability is. Show up at the same time, follow the same process, maintain the same standards. Repetition forms patterns that support long-term strength. This structure fosters calm. You act without pressure because rhythm is already in place. Self-respect grows as your behavior aligns with your values. By consistently matching intention with execution, you reinforce your identity. Each act of follow-through builds internal trust. That trust becomes stabilizing. It supports thoughtful decision-making and reduces mental noise. Responsibilities are carried with less strain because there is no internal negotiation. You stop arguing with yourself, delaying work, or waiting for external permission. The need to explain choices fades. Action becomes natural, without hesitation. Consistency simplifies daily life. Resistance to routine diminishes. Acting is expected, not questioned. Excuses lose their hold. They are seen for what they are, barriers to direction. You choose clarity. Instead, actions are measured by usefulness. Priorities are aligned with values, and what weakens progress is removed. This shift is quiet, but powerful. Energy flows into sustained effort instead of rationalization or delay. Consistency is the tool that transforms intention into identity and turns goals into lasting behavior. Consistency makes the abstract visible. Anyone can make a promise or write a plan, but few follow through without reminders. The difference is not intelligence or inspiration, it is follow-through. The ability to repeat action steadily, without waiting for perfect conditions, separates the focused from the distracted. This strength does not come from rare bursts of effort. It emerges from stable rhythm. Repetition with purpose builds structure. Structure supports discipline. Discipline produces clarity. Each step reinforces the next. The Stoics practiced this daily, reviewing behavior, examining choices, adjusting conduct. This ensured that principles were active, not merely theoretical. Private effort is a form of leadership. It governs how you treat your time, your speech, your habits, and your thoughts. It shows that you are not swayed by impulse, you are guided by structure. Personal reliability grows when standards are in place. You do not wait for motivation. You act according to choices already made. Every decision, even unseen, matters. Each confirms that your direction does not depend on observation. Steadiness becomes evident. Others may notice, even in silence. Your conduct communicates your seriousness, sets expectations, and shapes how others respond. Setbacks no longer provoke panic. You speak from principle without needing approval. You act from internal readiness. This is what it means to lead yourself first. You do not perform your values. You demonstrate them quietly. You keep your word to yourself and let that record speak. Chapter 9. Remove what weakens you. Self-respect grows when you protect your energy. Anything that undermines focus, clarity, or discipline must be recognized and removed. The Stoics taught that peace arises from order. Strength cannot thrive where environment, habits, or inner dialogue work against you. Living well requires subtraction. It means removing what dulls purpose or clouds judgment. Begin with your surroundings. Look at where you live and work. Clear clutter that competes for attention. Eliminate noise that disrupts focus. Simplify the tools, objects, and inputs around you. A supportive environment fosters calm and intentional action. Next, examine your habits. Identify routines that align with your values and remove those that distract. Replace them with practices that reinforce readiness. Your daily structure should move you closer to your principles. If it does not, it requires redesign. Finally, attend to your internal dialogue. Notice how often self-criticism, overthinking, or mental drift consumes attention. These subtle intrusions weaken focus and discipline. Awareness allows you to intervene, redirect energy, and maintain clarity. These patterns weaken focus. They make action heavier and diffuse energy. You must interrupt them and replace them with deliberate thought. Return your attention to the task at hand. Strengthen the signal. Reduce the noise. Removing what weakens you is an act of self-respect. It declares that your time, attention, and energy are reserved for what supports your direction. With practice, your identity becomes clearer. You are no longer divided between what you desire and what you tolerate. The Stoics understood that strength is not added, it is uncovered. It lies beneath distraction, clutter, and emotional noise. The path to it is removal. Eliminate what clouds the mind. Strip away what disrupts rhythm. What remains is clarity, steadiness, and discipline. These are revealed through subtraction, not accumulation. Chapter 10. Live as the guardian of your own life. Loving yourself means taking full responsibility for your existence, your time, your thoughts, your choices, and your outcomes. The Stoics taught that each individual must become the guardian of their mind. This involves monitoring what enters your awareness, what shapes your beliefs, and what directs your attention. It means protecting your inner world with the seriousness you would apply to something of great value. To live as a guardian is to stop waiting to be rescued. You no longer blame circumstances, people, or the past for your behavior. You recognize that your role is to act with reason, clarity, and focus. Hardship is not avoided. It is met with ownership of response. You are not a victim of experience. You are the architect of your reaction. Guardianship begins with how you manage your time. You limit distractions and reject commitments that pull you away from your principles. You design routines that reflect your priorities. You do not drift. You decide. This structure shapes your day and allows your values to become visible in action. It continues in how you manage your thinking. Fear is not given space. Anger does not dictate speech. Mental habits that reinforce helplessness are replaced with deliberate practice. You return to principle. You hold your mind accountable. Your attention is treated as limited and essential. To guard your life is to choose carefully what you expose yourself to. You do not consume information carelessly. You do not speak without discipline. You are selective with influences. You protect the clarity you have cultivated. This preserves your ability to navigate difficulty with composure. The Stoics lived with this awareness. They did not expect life to remove challenges. They trained to meet them with strength. They prepared the mind through reading, reflection, and action. They tested their reasoning. They sharpened clarity. They remained composed by focusing on what they could influence. You are the one who must protect your structure. You are the one who must follow through. You are the one who must keep yourself in motion. The path is internal. The work is personal. The reward is a life lived without confusion. Loving yourself first is not a feeling. It is a daily discipline. It is the structure you bring to thought, speech, and action. It is the refusal to be scattered. It is the conscious choice to act from principle. It is the quiet strength of knowing that through your own effort, by your own standard, and on your own terms, you are becoming the person you were always meant to be.